What if we lived on Mars? For centuries, humans have looked at the red planet in the night sky and wondered, could we ever live there? Mars has fascinated scientists, dreamers, and explorers alike. It's the most Earth-like planet in our solar system, but also one of the most hostile. So what would really happen if we tried to make Mars our new home? What would life be like? And could humanity actually survive there long-term? Let's find out. The dream of Mars. From the first telescopes to modern rovers, Mars has always been a symbol of adventure, the next frontier. It's cold, it's dry, and it's deadly. Yet it's also strangely familiar. Mars has mountains taller than Everest, canyons wider than the Grand Canyon, and polar ice caps made of frozen water and carbon dioxide. Scientists believe that billions of years ago, Mars may have looked more like Earth, with rivers, oceans, and even rain. Something happened that stripped it of its atmosphere and left behind a barren desert world. And yet, the dream remains. Maybe one day, humans could bring life back to Mars. The journey to Mars first, let's imagine the trip itself. At its closest, Mars is about 55 million kilometers from Earth. Even with the most advanced rockets, the journey would take around 7 to 9 months. During that time, astronauts would face extreme radiation, isolation, and zero gravity, conditions that weaken muscles, bones, and even mental health. By the time they land, they wouldn't just be tired, they'd be physically changed. First steps on the red planet. Landing on Mars would be breathtaking. The sky is pinkish orange. The sun looks half as big as it does from Earth. The ground is covered in iron-rich dust. That's what gives Mars its red color. The gravity is only 38% of Earth's, so walking would feel like a slow-motion bounce. You could jump nearly 3 times higher. But don't take off your helmet. The air is 100 times thinner than Earth's and made mostly of carbon dioxide. Without a pressurized suit, you'd lose consciousness in seconds. The temperature? On average, minus 63 degrees Celsius. At night, it can drop below minus 100 degrees Celsius. This isn't just another world, it's survival on the edge of death. Building a Martian base to live on Mars, humans would need protection from radiation, freezing temperatures, and lack of oxygen. One idea is to build bases underground or inside Martian lava tubes, natural tunnels formed by ancient volcanoes. These would shield settlers from cosmic rays and dust storms. Habitats would be pressurized, filled with breathable air, and temperature-controlled. Solar panels would provide energy during the day, while batteries would store it for the long Martian night. Food could be grown in hydroponic greenhouses using recycled water and waste. Scientists have already tested growing potatoes and lettuce in simulated Martian soil, and yes, it's possible, though tough. Daily life on Mars. Imagine waking up on Mars. Outside your window, a dusty, reddish horizon. No clouds. No rain. Just silence and the faint hum of the habitat's life support systems. Your day would follow sols, which are slightly longer than Earth days, about 24 hours and 39 minutes. You'd spend time maintaining equipment, checking air filters, growing food, and monitoring power levels. Showers would be rare, water is too precious. Every drop would be recycled. Even your breath and sweat would be turned back into drinking water. Communication with Earth would have a delay of up to 22 minutes, so no instant messages. Conversations would feel like talking to the past. You'd live in a small community of maybe 20 to 50 people, scientists, engineers, and doctors, all dependent on one another for survival. Challenges of living on Mars. Life on Mars would be far from easy. Radiation is one of the biggest dangers. Mars has no magnetic field and only a thin atmosphere, so cosmic rays constantly bombard the surface. Long exposure increases the risk of cancer, organ damage, and genetic mutations. The dust is another problem. It's fine, toxic, and electrostatically charged. It sticks to everything and could damage lungs or machinery. Psychological effects would also be immense. Months of isolation, artificial lighting, and no open sky could lead to depression, anxiety, and claustrophobia. In many ways, living on Mars would be like living inside a perpetual lockdown, only with a much higher death risk. Terraforming Mars, making it Earth. Like some scientists and dreamers believe we shouldn't just live on Mars, we should transform it. Terraforming means changing the planet's environment to make it more Earth-like, warmer, wetter, and breathable. One idea is to release greenhouse gases to thicken the atmosphere and trap heat. Another is to use massive orbiting mirrors to reflect sunlight and melt the polar ice caps, releasing carbon dioxide. Eventually, the temperature would rise, pressure would increase, and liquid water could return. But there's a catch: it would take centuries or even millennia. And right now, Mars doesn't have enough resources to make it easy. Still, the dream persists, that one day, Mars could turn from red to green. What would humans be like on Mars? If we lived on Mars for generations, humans would evolve to adapt to the new world. Lower gravity would change our bodies, bones would become lighter, muscles weaker. People might grow taller. Blood circulation and heart function would adjust to reduced pressure. Skin might develop a reddish tint to block radiation. Our lungs could adapt to thin air if terraforming made it breathable. Over centuries, Martian humans might look noticeably different from Earth humans, a new branch of our species, shaped by another world. Society on Mars. The Martian civilization would have to rethink everything: government, law, economy, and even culture. On a planet where every breath, every calorie, and every watt of power must be carefully managed, cooperation would be the key to survival. Money might not matter. Instead, work, knowledge, and contribution could define status. Religion could change too. Imagine spiritual beliefs shaped by living under 2 moons and a red sky. People might develop rituals around light, air, and water, the 3 things that keep them alive. Could Mars ever feel like home? Eventually, generations born on Mars might call it home. They would grow up knowing only low-gravity, domed cities, and red sunsets. For them, Earth might seem exotic, a place of endless blue skies, green forests, and vast oceans. Homesickness would reverse. Martians might one day visit Earth and find it too heavy, too bright, too wet. The science of hope. Why do we dream of Mars at all? Because Mars represents survival, evolution, and the human spirit. It's the idea that even when Earth becomes uninhabitable, from climate change, overpopulation, or cosmic disaster, humanity can endure. Mars is our backup plan, our second chance. But it's also a mirror. It shows us how fragile life is and how much we depend on our own planet's delicate balance. What if Mars had life? Before we colonize Mars, we must ask, what if life already exists there? Microbes may still hide beneath the surface, protected from radiation and cold. If we bring Earth life to Mars, we could wipe out native species before even discovering them. That's why current missions, like NASA's Perseverance rover, are searching carefully for traces of ancient microbes before we set foot there permanently. If we find even one living cell, it will change everything we know about biology and life in the universe. The future of Mars colonization. NASA, SpaceX, and other private companies are already working toward Mars missions. Elon Musk's goal is to send humans to Mars by the 2030s and build a self-sustaining city by 2050. At first, life will be harsh, confined to pressurized habitats. But over time, technology will improve. By the next century, humans might live in connected domes, grow food in biolabs, and even start families on Mars. Eventually, Mars could have schools, art, music, and culture, all under the pale orange glow of a distant sun. What if we never leave? If humanity becomes a multi-planet species, our story will change forever. For the first time, Earth will no longer be our only home. Children born on Mars will look up at the sky and see Earth as a tiny blue star, distant but real. Perhaps they will wonder what life is like back there, under the warm sun and blue oceans. Perhaps they will call Mars the new cradle of humanity. Final thought: so, what if we lived on Mars? We would adapt, we would struggle, and we would evolve. Mars would test our limits and transform us as a species. It wouldn't be easy, but then again, nothing great ever is. Maybe one day, when the sun sets over the red horizon and the first city glows beneath a dome of glass, humans will look back at Earth and say, "We made it. We built a home among the stars." Right finger subscribe to Why and How, and keep exploring the science of the impossible.